upon turning into a vampire. His initial act was to go sunbathing. It's a common knowledge that for vampires, exposing themselves to the sun means courting death. Yet little do others know that when I became a vampire, I was bestowed with a time-related gift. Simply by being in the sun, I can gain strength.
Monday. Outside the gates of the Academy for the Gifted, a group of students, backpacks slung over their shoulders, stood by the wall near the entrance. The name Academy for the Gifted was well known. Most regular students had heard of it growing up. Some even dreamed of attending one day. But now that the moment had come, they all felt a little uneasy. They were just ordinary people, while the Academy students were all gifted individuals. The gap between the two groups was enormous. Regular folks couldn't even break a brick without training, while gifted students could easily punch through a wall. Some of the stronger ones could even topple an entire building with ease. Getting bumped into by one of them? Best case, a few broken bones. Worst case, you're flying into orbit. Just thinking about it was terrifying. "Over here, deadweight!" That was when Zhang Shou spotted Yu Xian walking up with his backpack and immediately called out with a grin. Yu Xian strolled over casually. "No wonder I didn't see you on the way here. Did you crash at the office overnight?" "Yeah," Zhang Shou replied, glancing around before leaning in to explain in a low voice. "Dr. Chen said that even though my body can't grow stronger through training, I apparently have some kind of digitized attribute panel, and those stats can be improved through training, which would boost my overall ability." Yu Xian nodded but didn't press the topic. He looked around and asked, "Nobody going in? This is the Academy for the Gifted. You're not nervous?" Chen Ling popped up behind them out of nowhere, resting her hands on their shoulders and asking curiously. Yu Xian shook his head. "Still just a school, and it's not like we're in the same class as the gifted students anyway. Come on." He took the lead and walked toward the Academy gate, but just then, a sleek black car with a bat logo pulled up at the entrance. Nora stepped out, and the students nearby fell completely silent. The sight of a gorgeous blonde girl was just too much. Most students were totally defenseless against that kind of beauty. The kids from number 3 high had at least seen Nora before, but the others hadn't. They were stunned, practically entranced by the perfect image before them. A voice snapped them back to reality. "Morning, Dodo." Yushin greeted Nora with a smile. She had looked pleased to see him until she heard that. Her face darkened immediately. She stomped up and stepped on Yushen's foot, fuming. "You're the Dodo." Crack. Several male students watching the scene unfold felt their hearts shatter. A perfect couple moment. Ruined. "Nora, are you going back to your old class or joining ours?" Chen Ling jumped in to ask. Nora casually flicked her hair, suddenly realizing she was standing too close to Yu Xian, and took a small step back. "I already transferred schools. Obviously I'm in your class." "Then what are we waiting for? Let's go," Yu Xian said with a grin, not even glancing at the shoe print on his sneaker. He led the way, and the others followed closely. Seeing them move in, the rest of the students finally followed suit. They hadn't gone far past the school gate when the trees on both sides suddenly grew like crazy, blooming with countless flowers in an instant. A dozen students floated into the air, hands glowing with colorful firelight, creating vibrant fireworks in the sky. Lines of text appeared all around them. "Hello, new students. Welcome to the Academy for the Gifted. Adversity is the finest school of all. However long the night, dawn will always come. Every fall is just a setup for a stronger comeback." Students from the Academy emerged from the dense woods, some handing out flowers, others giving away small trinkets. Soon the crowd parted as a tall, silver-haired beauty stepped forward with a warm smile. "I'm Yu Marin, President of the Student Council. Welcome to the Academy for the Gifted. If you ever need help, feel free to come to the Student Council." Yu Xian, being at the front of the group, had no choice but to politely thank her on behalf of the regular students. But as he looked into Yu Marin's eyes, something felt off. It was like she didn't actually see them, not really. Putting on a show? The thought crossed Yu Xian's mind, but he kept smiling on the surface. Led by Yu Miran, the group walked toward the academic building. Teachers were already waiting at the entrance, and everyone headed together to their new classroom. At the door, Yu Miran emphasized once again that they could come to her or the student council for any problems. They'd take care of it. After that, she led the gifted students away, leaving Yu Xian and the rest to sort themselves into classes. The Academy for the Gifted had 2 senior classes for regular students, Class 1 and Class 2. Most students from the same school were grouped together. Thanks to Yu Xian saving several classmates during the parasite incident, most of Class 1 was made up of students from number 3 high. They hadn't been in the same class before, but they already knew each other. Because of the whole shapeshifter incident, everyone had already crossed paths. Once they sat down, it didn't take long to reconnect. Many brought gifts to thank Yu Xian and the others for saving their lives. A dozen students who had been treated by Zhang Shou in particular were especially respectful. Yu Xian, Zhang Shou, Nora, and Chen Ling sat together on the left side of the classroom, taking the first and second seats in the third and fourth rows. "Didn't expect the students here to be so welcoming," Chen Ling said with a smile as she sat to Nora's right. "I thought they'd look down on us." Nora replied matter-of-factly, "They're not idiots. Why would they do something that stupid? If any student dared discriminate against the newcomers today, they'd be trending online by that afternoon and probably doxed into oblivion by nightfall. Hell, the government might even step in behind the scenes to remind them who's really in charge around here." After all, the reason these regular students were allowed into the academy was because of the Silver City parasite incident, a nationwide scandal. Anything connected to it was guaranteed to draw serious attention. Now the student council was going all out to welcome the survivors. It was a great PR move, earned public goodwill, and made the council look great. Even if some students had different opinions, Yu Marin would crush any resistance before it saw the light of day. "Oh right, this is for you." Sitting in front of Yu Xian, Nora turned around and placed a massive silver ingot on his desk, wearing gloves. She'd promised him 20 pounds of silver, but after getting dragged back to the estate by Roche, she hadn't had the chance until now. "Whoa, that's a huge chunk of silver," Zhang Shou gasped. Silver was nearly as valuable as gold these days. Not just vampires, governments, wizards, and Taoists were all buying it up. Word was, alchemists could combine silver with other metals and substances to create mithril. All these factors drove the price of silver higher every year. "Thanks," Yu Xian said, smiling as he bit into the ingot to check its purity. "Solid. Rich girl, I'm hungry. Feed me," Zhang Shou said with puppy eyes, looking at Nora. Nora dropped a bullet on his desk with a deadpan look. "I'm a vampire. I don't eat. No rice. But here's a bullet. You want it?" "Nice one," Chen Ling laughed. Zhang Shou quickly surrendered but quietly pocketed the bullet. It was a high-grade explosive round, super expensive. After a bit of joking around, Yu Xian and Zhang Shou's phones chimed at the same time. They both pulled them out. Chen Ling noticed the devices looked identical, like official government-issued phones. The 2 boys read a message from Jin Shengfa, then looked at each other and nodded subtly. After school at noon, Yu Xian and Zhang Shou left the school and headed next door to the South City Public Security Bureau. They stepped into Jin Sheng's temporary office. He was hunched over his desk, eating takeout. When he saw them come in, he quickly shoveled in a couple more bites and then shut the lid of his meal box. Wiping his mouth, he said, "Have a seat. There's something I need to tell you." Once they sat down, he looked at the 2 of them and said, "I have to report back to the capital tonight. There's a mission I need to hand over to you guys." Then he slowly laid out the details. Lately, nights in Silver City hadn't exactly been peaceful. Various extraordinary creatures had been lurking around, waiting for opportunities, and some dark forces had been trying to stir up trouble amid the chaos. But thanks to Jin Sheng's recent crackdown, most of the high-level creatures and troublemakers had been taken care of. The only ones left were small fries, classified as insect grade or ant grade. These low-level beings weren't powerful, but they were numerous, and still extremely dangerous to ordinary people. Yu Xian and Zhang Shou's mission was to patrol the city while Jin Sheng was away and eliminate these pests. In the past, this sort of job was handled by the Security Bureau. Officers scheduled for night duty would patrol the city. But during the recent operation against the Abnormites, there had been casualties among the force, and now they were short-staffed. That's why Yu Xian and Zhang Shou were being brought in as backup. "I like this mission. As the king of all-nighters, I finally have a legit excuse to stay up late," Zhang Shou said excitedly. Yu Xian smiled but said nothing. Ever since becoming a vampire, he'd only slept once. He didn't mind the mission, he'd just be idle at night otherwise. This one counts toward merit points too, Jin Sheng said with a grin when they accepted the mission. You get 1 point for eliminating a low-tier extraordinary creature, 5 points for an insect grade, and 10 for an ant grade. Just don't go too crazy trying to rack up points. Yu Xian and Zhang Shou both nodded. Zhang Shou patted his chest and said, "Don't worry, Captain. Me and Salted Fish won't screw it up. Also, since I'm heading back to the capital, the Silver City situation will be officially wrapped up. The headquarters will definitely be awarding merit points, but it doesn't have to be points. You can trade them in for other rewards. If there's anything you guys want, speak up now and I'll try to get it for you," Jin Sheng said. Zhang Shou's eyes lit up. "Captain, I get one too." "Everyone who helped with the rescue will get something," Jin Sheng explained. "For most of the other students, it'll be cash rewards, honors, or bonus points for college entrance exams. But you and Salted Fish are part of the team, so your reward will be merit points." Zhang Shou quickly said, "I want a storage ring, Captain. Can I trade for one of those?" He had checked the prices in the exchange store. Even a simple storage pouch with just 1 cubic meter of space cost around 50,000 merit points. He figured there was no way HQ would give out that much. So if he could trade the reward for a storage item, it'd be a major win. "I'll ask." "Should be doable," Jin Sheng nodded. Then he turned to Yu Xian. Yu Xian paused, then said, "Storage gear, silver, and Pangu's blood. Can I get all 3? "You're dreaming," Jin Sheng scoffed. He himself had been saving merit for 5 years since joining the Kilin unit, plus borrowed a bunch of points from Jin Dejun just to get Pangu's blood. He was still paying back the loan, and didn't even own any storage gear yet. "Captain, don't reject me so fast. Just ask. It doesn't hurt to try. If it's too much, I'll drop the silver. If that's still too much, I'll drop the storage gear," Yu Xian said with a grin. Jin Sheng sighed. "Fine, I'll ask. Pangu's blood might be possible, but the other 2 are a stretch." Then he sent the 2 of them a file on his phone. It was a list of student names. "These are all students from the Academy of the Extraordinary. Keep an eye on them at school, but don't let them notice." "Something wrong with them?" Yu Xian asked while scanning the list. "They're probably fine themselves," Jin Sheng replied, glancing at the names on his phone. "But their parents are all extraordinary folks, some of them involved in the gray zone. I'm worried they'll try something with everything in flux." In other words, their parents were supernaturals operating in the shadows. Back when Silver City was orderly, they wouldn't have dared stir trouble. But now, with things in disarray, who knew what they might do? Yu Xian and Zhang Shou finished reviewing the file in the office and then headed back to school. "Salted Fish, do you think we should patrol by car or go solo?" Zhang Shou asked eagerly on the way. Yu Xian looked over at him and said, "Don't you have a license?" "Perfect. My dad's car hasn't been sold yet. Let's go independent." He'd been too busy taking care of his father with ALS over the years to get a driver's license. Meanwhile, Zhang Shou had gotten his license as soon as he turned 16 and got his ID. A lot of laws were different now, minimum age for a license being one of them. They got back to school with 30 minutes left before class. They stood in the hallway, observing the students below. The Academy of the Extraordinary had different uniforms than the regular school, so it was easy to tell them apart. Blue uniforms on one side, black uniforms on the other. A sharp, unmistakable divide like a trench. "That kid with the horns? Think he's from the Dragon Clan or has deer demon blood?" Zhang Shou asked quietly, watching a student walk by below. "Most dragons live on the coast. What do you think?" Yu Xian replied coolly. Looking down at the divided crowd of students, he felt like he was staring at a miniature version of society. In reality, extraordinary beings and ordinary people had always kept to themselves. Most extraordinary folks lived in the east of the city. Regular people were mostly in the south. Since there was little interaction between them, the Abnormites had been able to sneak into Silver City without anyone noticing, until Yu Xian exposed them. Of course, the Abnormites had learned their lesson from the failed operation in Wrong City. This time, they were being extra cautious. They avoided areas frequented by supernaturals, even skipped over the homes of supernaturals' human maids. That's also why the Academy of the Extraordinary had been completely unaffected by the Abnormite invasion. "Hey, look! Yu Meiren," Zhang Shou whispered. Yu Meiren was a psychic. When she was young, she dreamed of the Bai-Zai beast and awakened the power of naming beasts. Many of the extraordinary creatures at school were actually her familiars. While the two of them were looking at her, she looked up at them, gave a slight nod and smile, then walked into the academic building. People say President Yu's watching the whole school. Seems that rumors got some truth to it, came a voice from behind them, Chen Ling, speaking in her usual ghostly tone. Zhang Shou jumped and took a step back. Chen Ling, are you a ghost or what? Can't you make a sound when you walk? Just then, Yu Xian noticed a gloomy-looking girl. Even in the summer heat, she was wrapped in a scarf, most of her face hidden, only a pair of lifeless eyes showing. Yu Xian's gaze dropped to the book in her hands. It reeked of blood, human blood. Yu Xian's physical abilities were improving almost every single day. His 5 senses were also getting sharper. Even without using the silver blood to enhance his sense of smell, he could now easily distinguish a variety of scents, especially anything related to blood. He was extremely sensitive to that. The girl downstairs seemed to notice Yu Xian staring at her. Her pace suddenly quickened, and she disappeared into the school building in the blink of an eye. That's Wang Qian from the Witch Clan. I heard she's good at curses. You two better not even think about flirting with her, Chen Ling said just then. Zhang Shou looked shocked. Chen Ling, are you seriously not awakened? You act like there's nothing in this school you don't know. You've changed, doggo. You don't even call me queen anymore. Chen Ling gave him a mysterious smile, patted him on the shoulder, and said meaningfully. Zhang Shou quickly changed his tone, smiling and buttering her up. Well then, Your Majesty the Queen, are you awakened or not? Take a guess, Chen Ling replied with a sly grin. The truth was, she just loved gossip and had joined tons of student chat groups. Yu Xian could tell if someone was awakened just from their scent. He said nothing in response to Zhang Shou's doubts and kept silently observing the students downstairs. Hey, cutie! A girl with an innocent yet sultry look suddenly looked up and waved at Yu Xian. She had short wine-red hair, and under her skirt, a tail was clearly visible. Yu Xian simply nodded without saying a word. That girl was one of the people Jin Sheng had told him and Zhang Shou to keep an eye on. Hu Tuer. She had 9-tailed fox blood. Her family ran a bathhouse, and her father Hu Weijie was a well-known fixer in the gray market. If anyone was likely to stir up trouble, he'd be high on the list. But today there was nothing strange about Hu Tuer's scent. If her father really had done anything shady, Yu Xian would be able to pick up on it through Hu Tuer's body odor if they'd had any contact. Until the school bell rang, the other students didn't seem suspicious. The only one who raised a red flag was the Witch Clan girl, Wang Qian. Night fell. Zhang Shou was driving. Yu Xian sat in the passenger seat, knitting a sweater. 7:30 p.m., codename Lazyfish, codename Death Dock, starting patrol now. Zhang Shou tapped his phone to launch the Patrol Division's app and focused on the road. The route near Silver City's outer wall was nearly deserted. The sidewalks on both sides were completely empty. The car followed the patrol route for an hour. Not only were there no awakened beasts, they hadn't even seen a regular animal. Zhang Shou yawned from boredom, glanced at Yu Xian still knitting, and grumbled, I thought night patrols would be exciting. This is dead boring. At this rate, I'm gonna fall asleep. No worries. Once you nod off, I'll just shoot you. I don't think you've died yet today, right? Yu Xian replied with a grin. Once Zhang Shou reset his state, his day-night cycle flipped. Since his skill recorded his condition in the morning, every time he respawned it felt like waking up refreshed. Of course, by the time they made it to morning, he'd probably be out cold all day. Damn Lazyfish, when did you get so cruel? Zhang Shou said in mock horror after hearing Yu Xian's heartless joke. Yu Xian was about to respond when his ear twitched. Suddenly, his knitting fingers flicked and a thread of silver wire shot out the car window. Stop the car, he said. Zhang Shou hit the brakes immediately. They both got out and walked to the right side of the road. In the roadside bushes lay a 2-meter-long venomous snake with a drill-shaped head, already sliced clean in half. Its lower half was still twitching. 1 merit point secured. Yu Xian snapped a photo with his phone, then grabbed a collection bag from the back seat and used tongs to drop the snake into it. Zhang Shou shone a high-powered flashlight into the bushes with one hand, gun ready in the other. No need to look, There's only one snake here. No idea how it got into the city though, Yu Xian said with a chuckle. It was definitely strange. Silver City was surrounded by 15-meter-high walls. Outside the walls were military barracks. In theory, there was no way any animals could sneak past both. Yet somehow, creatures kept appearing out of nowhere, like they just popped into existence. Then again, maybe it wasn't so strange. Just like how people live in high-rise buildings and somehow cockroaches still show up. No one knows where they come from. Maybe animals always find a way to survive. The two got back in the car and drove for another 30 minutes when a dark figure suddenly darted out of the bushes. Zhang Shou slammed on the brakes. They jumped out of the car and took off after the shadow. It's a rabbit. Might be bugged here. I'm going in first. Yu Xian shouted and accelerated, quickly leaving Zhang Shou behind. Zhang Shou chased for a bit, then stopped, panting heavily. When we're done, I'm having rabbit stew, he muttered. Before he could fully catch his breath, another shadow flashed by. There's more? His eyes widened and he turned to look back. On the other side of the road was another patch of grass, then a river, a stretch of woods, and beyond that, the city wall. Where the hell are these rabbits coming from? He mumbled to himself and headed back to check the bushes. He had to see if there were any rabbit holes. Meanwhile, the rabbit was fast, but Yu Xian was faster. The gap between them narrowed. Yu Xian summoned a streak of blood energy, then flicked his finger. The silver wire, now infused with the blood energy, shot forward and pierced the rabbit clean through. The wire then spun rapidly, slicing its bones and muscles to bits. Blood energy had tons of uses, and he'd been researching it non-stop. Just now, he used it to boost the silver wire's velocity and impact force. That didn't feel quite right. Yu Xian frowned slightly as he looked at the still twitching rabbit. He walked over and flipped it with the wire, only to see two fangs in its mouth and a strong stench of decay. Zombie rabbit. Yu Xian froze, then quickly bound it tighter with silver wire. If this thing bit a regular person, it'd be a real problem. He picked up the rabbit and headed back. At the roadside, he saw Zhang Shou digging through the bushes. "What are you looking for?" he asked. "Rabbit hole." "Wait, there's only one? I saw another one run off earlier." "You didn't see it?" Zhang Shou replied, glancing at the rabbit in Yu Xian's hand. Yu Xian froze. There was another one? He hurried to the car, grabbed a corpse bag covered in talismans from the back seat, stuffed the zombie rabbit inside, tied it shut, and took off running again. Normally, he didn't like using the silver blood to boost his sense of smell. There were just too many nasty odors in the world. He couldn't stand it. But now he had no choice. If another zombie rabbit bit someone, it'd be bad news, especially since some people, when bitten, wouldn't seek medical help right away. They'd hope they could tough it out. That kind of thinking always made things worse, for everyone. Zuo Zhengzhong, male, 45 years old, works in cremation, an avid fan of the occult. Ever since he was a kid, he dreamed of becoming an awakened, and he worked tirelessly for it, studying every public supernatural system he could find. At one point, he even considered becoming a wild vampire. But back then, several foreign wild vampires were publicly executed by the Blood Clan. After watching those events unfold, he realized the risks were too high and gave up on the idea. From age 20 to 35, he was obsessed with forbidden fruits. He spent a fortune chasing that dream, but it all turned out to be smoke and mirrors, leaving him with nothing. To pay off his debts, he spent the next 10 years working diligently. But he never gave up researching how to become an awakened. Eventually, he came up with what he believed was a foolproof plan. He would become a zombie. Of course, he didn't want to be a mindless one. He wanted to become the first zombie in history with self-awareness. He found clues in various ancient texts. First, he would purchase a soul-locking talisman to anchor his soul to his body. Then he'd prepare a coffin that could seal a zombie's aura. After getting infected with corpse poison, he would bury himself in a yin-rich, corpse-nurturing ground. Since his soul was fixed to his body, once he zombified, his spirit would mutate along with his body and become a vengeful ghost. Zombies, once strong enough, could develop basic self-awareness and even grow smarter over time. At that moment, he would seize the chance to devour the emerging consciousness of the zombie and possess his own body, fully merging with his zombie self. That way, once he emerged from the corpse ground, he would be the world's only perfect, self-aware zombie. It was a beautiful plan. He even spent an entire year's salary to buy a real soul-locking talisman. All he needed was a zombie tooth containing corpse poison to begin the process. But as an ordinary guy, he had no way of obtaining one. That's where he got stuck. That evening, he rode his bicycle home after work. Lately, the number of bodies had been piling up, and he was stuck working late until 7 or 8 every night. But overtime meant extra pay, and he was more than happy to work more. Money was the key to chasing his dream. What kind of asshole would do this? Zuo Zhengjong returned home and saw a basketball-sized hole in the corner of his front door. He hurried over, unlocked the door, and flipped on the light. A rabbit was hopping around in the corner of his living room. Frowning, he grabbed his steel rebar club and cautiously approached. "Hey!" He swung the club down hard. The force of the recoil numbed his hand slightly. Realizing it was a supernatural creature, he gritted his teeth and kept swinging until he was totally winded and the rabbit finally stopped moving. Panting, he took a short break. Just as he was about to examine what kind of creature the rabbit was, Yu Xian arrived. "Careful, that's a zombie rabbit. Let me handle it," Yu Xian quickly called out. Zuo Zhengjong was first startled, then overjoyed. But then he turned around and shouted angrily, "Who the hell are you? Why are you trespassing in my house? Get out now or I'm calling the cops." "I am the cops. I'm on night patrol. All supernatural creatures fall under my jurisdiction," Yu Xian replied, showing his ID. Zuo Zhengjong stared at the ID in Yu Xian's hand, then reluctantly stepped aside, suppressing his frustration. "Thanks for cooperating. Also, next time something like this happens, it's best to call us first. Let the tactical squad handle it. What you did was really dangerous. If you'd been bitten, you'd be in serious trouble." Yu Xian let out a breath and bound the zombie rabbit with silver wire. Before leaving, he offered Zuo Zhengjong a reminder. Zuo Zhengjong just smiled awkwardly and nodded, watching Yu Xian leave. Once the door closed, his smile vanished. His face darkened. That was a zombie, the very thing he'd been dreaming of. That was the closest he'd ever come to becoming an awakened. He turned back inside and looked at the spot where the zombie rabbit had fallen. Suddenly, he spotted something, rushed forward and crouched down, carefully picking up a shard of bone no bigger than a grain of rice. It must have been knocked loose when he beat the rabbit with the metal rod. Staring at the shard, his face slowly lit up with manic joy. According to research published by the Awakened Alliance, ever since corpse energy emerged, its presence has only grown stronger. That's the famous corpse energy expansion theory. Even the tiniest trace of corpse energy can create a zombie. And as zombies grow more powerful, they generate even more corpse energy. When they're destroyed, that energy doesn't vanish. It disperses into the environment. That's why corpse energy will only keep increasing until it eventually pulls all of humanity into the world of the dead. Zuo Zhengjong had read that theory and felt like the world was about to end. He was depressed for weeks afterward. Eventually, he came across some ancient wisdom online. If you can't beat them, join them. In that moment, he felt like his inner gates had burst open. If the world was destined to belong to the dead, then becoming one early was the smart move. Yu Xian walked down the street, still thinking about the thick stench of decay that clung to that man earlier. It had made him suspicious. He pulled out his phone and logged into the Public Safety Bureau's app. Using the house number, he quickly pulled up the man's profile. He paused, then shook his head. Just as he thought, he was overthinking it. Cremation worker. Of course he'd smell like death. Yu Xian picked up his pace, heading back to the road. Zhang Shou was still searching for holes. Yu Xian stored the zombie rabbit and then stood at the edge of the grass asking, "Old Zhang, any luck?" "Nope. This is too weird. Where the hell are they coming from?" Zhang Shou stood up, confused, and looked at Yu Xian. Yu Xian chuckled. "It's one of the world's top 3 unsolved mysteries. If I could answer that, I'd be famous." The world of the Awakened was full of unanswered questions. The sudden appearance of animals was one of them. Some people thought it was a glitch in the world. Others believed it was the side effect of a forbidden fruit. Everyone had a theory, but no one really knew where these creatures came from. They got back in the car. Zhang Shou resumed driving. Along the way, more supernatural animals popped up here and there. The two kept stopping and starting until the car finally made its way to the east side of the city. Compared to the other districts, the east side was a lot livelier. Even after 11 p.m., there were still plenty of people on the streets, and all the shops were still open. It was a rare sight in other parts of the city. "Hey Fish, look, Hu Tuer," Jiangshu whispered. Yushin was knitting, but when he heard that, he looked up. Sure enough, Hu Tuer was hanging around with a group of young guys. She smiled now and then, leaving the boys totally spellbound. "No wonder she's called a fox spirit. She's definitely got the skills," Jiangshu said in awe. Yushin sniffed the air. Didn't smell anything strange. He said calmly, "Let's go. Keep patrolling." Honestly, this part of town didn't really need their patrols. The awakened living here were powerful. Some had even reached Hawk tier. If anything weird showed up, they could easily handle it themselves. Still, orders were orders. Yushin and Jiangshu kept cruising along the patrol route without complaint. Sleepless all night. It was their first patrol, and nothing went wrong the entire time. But that was just the first go-around. You hang around the river long enough, you're bound to get your feet wet. With more patrols in the future, who knows what might happen. Jiangshu parked the car in a lot near the school, then headed off for breakfast. Yushin didn't need breakfast, so he went straight to school. "Xian Yu, you're here pretty early today." Chen Ling was scrolling through gossip on her phone in the classroom. When she saw Yu Xian walk in, she looked surprised. "Morning, you're early too." Yu Chen took his seat and responded with a faint smile. He placed his hand in the desk drawer, and with a thought, threads of silver wire quickly formed, weaving themselves into gloves in the blink of an eye. Compared to knitting with regular yarn, the silver threads made from silver blood were much easier to control. As long as he knew the right technique, he could create any piece of armor with a single thought. He kept practicing over and over. Silver gloves repeatedly formed and vanished on his hands, the speed increasing each time. When he could knit a glove in just 0.1 seconds, he started lengthening the gloves. "Xian Yu, did you hear?" Chen Ling suddenly turned around and blinked at him, eyeing him with curiosity. She had clearly seen him walk in wearing a blue school uniform, but now he had on a silver trench coat with a silver vest underneath. "Wait, you didn't just change clothes behind me or something, did you?" Chen Ling asked, stunned. Just as she blinked, Yu Xian had already retracted all the silver thread. Her vision blurred for a second, and when she looked again, he was back in his uniform. "Maybe I didn't sleep enough last night," she mumbled to herself. Yu Xian smiled. "So what were you going to say just now?" "Oh right, did you hear? The East Sea Dragon King just announced he's going to break into the civilian armor market. He's planning to develop gear that can protect regular people from transcendent attacks." Chen Ling was still staring suspiciously at Yu Xian's outfit, but couldn't resist diving into the gossip. The East Sea Dragon King was just a nickname. His real name was Li Donghai, a direct descendant of the dragon ancestor and a mega tycoon. The famous East Sea Dragon Palace Group was his company. Up until now, he'd only catered to transcendent clients, but now it seemed he wanted to make money from ordinary folks too. "Probably just blowing smoke," Yu Xian commented. Li Donghai was known for running his mouth. Netizens jokingly called him Big Mouth Dragon because he jumped on every trending topic. No doubt this announcement was just him trying to ride the hype coming out of Silver City. "So it's fake?" Chen Ling sounded disappointed. She'd actually hoped to buy some useful gear. Her parents had gotten her pepper spray, bear spray, and a taser. Those worked fine on regular people, but against transcendent threats? Probably useless. If real protective gear were available, she'd definitely want to buy some. Transcendent equipment's gonna cost a fortune. Even if they cut costs, it'll still be in the millions. Materials alone are insanely expensive, you know? Yu Xian was well aware of how rare transcendent materials were. Even many transcendents didn't have a single piece of gear, let alone the general public. Guess I was being naive. Should have known better than to trust Big Mouth Dragon. Chen Ling gave up all hope after that. She started typing furiously on her phone, clearly planning to roast Li Donghai in the comments. Yu Xian smiled faintly, pulled out his phone, and while still mentally weaving gloves, opened the Kirin app to check for real news. Flying zombie spotted on Twin Star Mountain, currently being hunted. All members below Eagle class advised to stay away. Internal ranking assessment begins on the 1st of next month. Members looking to climb the ranks should sign up soon. Kirin Research Division has developed a detection method for the new variant of the form shifter parasite, cerebral embrace worm. Nationwide scan to begin in 3 days. Yu Xian's eyes lit up at the third headline. He'd seen similar reports 2 days ago. Kirin scientists had finally cracked the new form of the form shifter parasite and named it the cerebral embrace worm. This particular variant transformed its body into structures nearly identical to human neural tissue, then invaded the host's brain, replacing key sections of the nervous system, like tendrils tightly gripping the brain. At that point, the host's brain didn't technically die, but all incoming sensory information was filtered through the parasite. In short, the worm made the host see only what it wanted them to see, and hear only what it wanted them to hear. The host became nothing more than a puppet, no chance to fight back. And once someone was infected, even though they were still alive, it was basically game over. There was no reliable way to remove the worm without killing the host. After all, the cerebral embrace worm ate the host's neural pathways. Remove it, and the host would lose too much brain function to survive. Yu Xian felt a mix of emotions: relief that there was finally a way to detect and prevent these parasites, and dread over how many families would fall apart once the scan began. Doghead Gold Mountain. The mountain got its name from a massive nugget of gold shaped like a dog's head that had been found there years ago. But as transcendent creatures became more common, humans had long since evacuated the surrounding area. The mountain was now an animal sanctuary. In a man-made cave halfway up the slope, all kinds of animals had gathered: wolves, bears, tigers, and even humans. Clearly, something was very wrong. These creatures weren't supposed to coexist peacefully. Suddenly, the ground began to shake. A massive white ape, nearly 10 feet tall, leapt down from the mountain peak to the flat area below. It turned and tore down part of the cave wall, grinning at the crowd. Man, this body feels amazing. What a rush. Hey, third bro, don't break that thing. We worked hard to get that body. It's a critical asset, Zhou Tai said, swinging his legs from a rock. A nearby tiger nodded. Yeah, we finally managed to capture a transcendent creature. You mess it up, you're dead meat. Transcendent creatures were highly sensitive. Any foreign presence in their bodies would usually be detected instantly, which made them nearly impossible for form shifters to parasitize. But after their crushing defeat in Silver City, Zhou Tai realized that parasitizing only ordinary humans would never allow the form shifters to truly evolve. So when he discovered this white ape lived alone, he sacrificed dozens of form shifters to wear the ape down, exhausting it completely before taking over. Form shifters with human intelligence tended to be selfish and afraid of death, making them notoriously hard to organize. But now, with Zhou Tai as their leader, they finally had direction. Even if they were scared, they had to follow orders. It was a huge leap forward, from chaos to unity. If they could manage to parasitize even more transcendent creatures, maybe they could surround the cities from the wild and eventually take over the world.